Today is Friday, January 16, 2026, and here is the news that you can use. If you're a CIO or CISO trying to plan the next quarter, today's through line is simple. AI agents are becoming production infrastructure, not demos, and that means procurement, governance, and security teams all inherit new operational burden. At the same time, Washington is tightening the screws on both cloud authorization mechanics and the physical supply chain underneath compute. And on the cyber side, the warning lights are about exploit timelines and upstream code integrity, which means your basics still matter. We'll start with enterprise customer experience, because Parloa just raised $350 million to scale an AI agent platform for the enterprise. This is another sign that voice agents are moving into the same budget category as contact center platforms and CRM systems. If you own CX or IT service delivery, the key question isn't whether the model can talk, it's whether the agent can authenticate, escalate, log, and comply. What should you do next? Treat voice agents like you'd treat any other critical workflow system. Demand audit trails, human override paths, and clear data retention rules before you let this touch regulated conversations. In related news, Google Cloud is leaning hard into agentic workflow case studies, and one spotlight is on Palo Alto Networks using agents to automate customer intelligence document creation for sales-facing work. The executive lesson here is that agents are winning when they're embedded inside a real process, with inputs, approvals, and outputs that map to business value. The risk is that helpful automation can become uncontrolled document generation if you don't gate access to data and enforce review steps. Your move here is to standardize an agent pattern, require grounding sources, enforce least privilege access, and put approval checkpoints in the workflow so the agent drafts and humans decide. Now to the policy layer. Because the Congressional Research Service published a short brief on agentic AI and cyber attacks, and it's basically a warning label for the next phase of adversary tooling. The core point is that autonomy compresses time, recon gets faster, phishing gets more adaptive, and multi-step attack chains can be stitched together with less human effort. For a CISO, the what to do is not to panic and buy another tool. It's to make your identity and detection fundamentals resilient to speed. Double down on strong authentication, constrain privileged pathways, and make sure your incident response playbooks assume the attacker can iterate quickly. Turning to national supply chain posture, the White House issued a proclamation adjusting imports of semiconductors, semiconductor manufacturing equipment, and derivative products into the United States. Regardless of your political lens, the practical CIO reality is that policy is now a variable in compute pricing and availability planning. Even when exemptions exist, definitions and enforcement details determine who feels the impact and how fast. If you run data centers, AI infrastructure, or large cloud commitments, you should treat this as a scenario planning trigger. Reconfirm your hardware and supplier exposure, review lead times, and align procurement with the possibility that policy changes can ripple into delivery schedules and total cost. For federal and regulated cloud teams, FedRAMP posted a modernization update framed around the FedRAMP Authorization Act, and it includes 6 requests for comment. That's a big deal, because it signals where the program wants industry feedback before changes harden into requirements. If you sell into federal, or if your agency depends on a specific SaaS roadmap, these RFCs are your early warning system for future compliance cost and timing. The action item is straightforward. Assign an owner to read the RFC set, map the likely impact to your current ATO pipeline, and decide where you should comment to protect schedule and reduce duplicative documentation burden. Now let's talk cost governance, because AI-driven workloads can explode budgets quietly. And the best fix is visibility you can allocate and explain. AWS Data Exports and Cost and Usage Report 2.0 are positioned to give more consistent schemas, column control, and recurring exports you can shape for real analysis. This matters because a stable and well-tagged cost dataset is what enables showback, anomaly detection, and business unit accountability, especially when experimentation drives variability. What should you do next? Treat tagging and cost categories as governance controls. Define the minimum tags for AI workloads, enforce them at deployment, and build a weekly review cadence that looks for spend spikes and orphaned resources before month end. Now we'll close with a cyber risk wrap that's grouped for action. First, the CISA Known Exploited Vulnerabilities Catalog entry for CVE 2025-8110 in GOGS shows a due date that forces prioritization, and it points to active risk in the wild. Second, AWS published security bulletins that include both an important item and an informational item, and the practical message is that upstream tooling and repository integrity remains a real attack surface. Third, Wiz Research lays out the GOGS exploit chain and the operational indicators defenders should be thinking about. Here's your play. If you have GOGS exposure, move immediately to triage and mitigation. If you don't, still use this as a supply chain drill. Inventory critical developer tooling, subscribe to vendor bulletins, and ensure your vulnerability process can translate an advisory into internal exposure and action within hours, not days. That's the exchange for today. If you are interested in how this newscast is created or want more information about how to be a part of it, contact podcasts at matorasolutions.com. That's podcasts with an S at matorasolutions.com. Have a great weekend.